You're going to see a lot of white in the color and the density and the contrast, and it's going to look quite unlike the original, well, the sort of, what do you call it, the negative, not the camera negative, but the negative which your prints would have been taken from that you saw in the cinema before. So it's a huge leap in quality, and it was just great to work on it. It was beautiful.
Was it easy to work off of the negative? A lot of times they don't want people to work off the negative.
Yeah, well, it's kind of every version that you do, whatever format, every format throws up a new problem or a set of problems. So you've got to do it the way we did it in the first place, which is kind of frame by frame. And that's why it takes a little bit of a time to do just one of them.
How long did this take?
Weeks. Weeks. It was like first day we shot on Eyes Wide Shut. Day one, we were already half a day behind when we finished. That's all you can say.
So for The Shining, there are a lot of complicated setups. And what do you remember as being the most difficult or unique setup from this film without giving too much away to people who have not seen it?
Every one of them. Stanley always said there's no such thing as a simple shot. And so everything, if you imagine the sequence where Jack goes into the ballroom and all that's going on, that was a huge, massive thing to choreograph, just in itself. But everything, was about detail with Stanley. I mean, we always used to say that God's in the detail, but we also said, so is the devil, and that's what you've got to be careful about.
The baseball bat scene on the stairs.
Mm-hmm.
So it's rumored, and you will be able to tell us, was it really 127 takes?
Not 127. That was Scatman and Danny in the kitchen.
Oh my, really?
Yes.
And how did everyone react? I mean, because you're there, right, when it's happening, and so what's the reaction of the crew? Are they just getting on with it because they know at that point, like, what Stanley's process is, so they don't question, they just do their job?
Yeah, absolutely. And one of the things that's misunderstood, he wasn't doing it for the sake of doing lots of takes. I mean, there were a lot of things that had to be resolved. And one of them is to put it in a kind of weird way, to stop people from acting. Just for them to be living inside that bubble of the moment as, the people you're seeing act in the scene. So, that was really the most important thing for him. Then it makes it just interesting and something really sort of edgy.
So that, I can imagine as an actor that can be pretty challenging. If you think about Jack Nicholson, who's an incredible actor, did that work with him? Like, was he able to get out of acting? Or was it a much more complicated process for him?
No, I mean, it was about time and repetition, really. That's where it's at. I remember the first scene I ever did as an actor on Barry Lyndon. He always used to say this, and he said it to just about everybody. He kicked off everybody except the cameraman and the grip, and then he'd say to me, all right, do the scene as you think you're going to do it. Don't do any of this stuff I'm saving for the camera, because your starting point will be that much higher when we get to the start of it. And by the time you've gone through that process, you aren't thinking anymore. You're just being, which is, the objective. And so, that's really what it was all about, is almost wearing down the patience and the resistance till you end up thinking, I shouldn't think about this, just do it. And that's what happened.
So that's interesting when you talk about paint the picture of a Kubrick set. So it was sparse, right? It was the grip and the cameraman, or who?
DOP.
And that was it.
That was it. And the actors, and then he'd go around with an Araflex tube, connecting all these different lenses. And you just played the scene over and over again. You just went around looking for the first angle. And he said, you could do something that would change my mind about the way we're going to play the scene and what happens consequently. So he's always open to things happening.
For a guy that plans so much,
Yeah.
those scenes stay for life. They're very organic.
Right, yeah.
So is he shooting with multiple cameras at any given time, or is it multiple takes with different camera setups?
Oh, no. I mean, the only multiple cameras, we had two on the scene where Shelley's being pursued by Jack up the stairs.
Yeah.
And I can't remember when we ever did anything but a single camera operation. I mean, absolutely, in the Shining, in the maze, and everywhere else, it was all single camera.
Another thing you were very instrumental in this is casting and working with the children in this. Can you talk a little bit about casting the main child?
Yeah. I went to Denver and Chicago and Kansas because we wanted Midwest, because that's a pretty neutral kind of accent dialect, for a better word. And in 6 months, I saw 5,000 kids, which was amazing and kind of frayed you out a bit in the brain. But I have to say, I've got to say, it's one of those things. You know, when people say, as soon as I saw them, I knew it was going to be, you know, him or her or whatever it is. With Danny, who played the part in the end, I broke all the rules about, you know, if kids didn't come into the room with me willingly, then you know, I said, I'm sorry, this isn't going to work, and send them home, or, you know, the parents were with them, of course. And Danny was one who didn't want to come in the room with me at first. And I don't know why, I didn't think, oh, you know, I went down, I got on my knees, and I was just talking to him, saying, come on, you can do this. And his mother and his brother were saying, come on, Danny. And after about 5 minutes, he stood up, and he took my hand. We walked into the room where we were auditioning, and we sat in a chair about 3 feet from each other, and he just looked at me, didn't say a word, and then he said, gee, Leon, I like your suit. And that was it. We were talking from then on.
And did you work with them throughout the film, too, right?
Oh, yeah, right.
And so what's it like to take a child to a traumatic experience like this?
Well, you know, it's kind of, he's never, you know, in Britain, the laws are quite strict, I'm sure they are here too. They can't be in the same frame as the horror that's going on. So they get shot differently, and you have to get this imagination going as to what it was he's seeing. So, but Danny was incredible. I mean, I never had to prompt him. By the time we rehearsed all the scenes, because that's what we did when he wasn't shooting, just working very slowly and carefully with him. And he knew every word of dialogue when he got on set. He was only 4 years old. I mean, it's quite astonishing how wonderful that kid was. You know.
Did he know what red rum means?
Sorry?
Did he know what red rum means?
Yes, he did.
And you're also instrumental, not to give this away because if you ever went on the internet, you've seen this, the twins.
Right.
You found the twins. Can you tell the story of how you discovered
Yeah,
them?
originally, you know, because it's just sisters, it wasn't supposed to be twins. We never thought of it like that. And I was having terrible trouble, you know, actually I found one girl who was really good, who turned out to be a 9-year-old Patsy Kensit, who I don't know if anyone here knows her. She was an actor, you know, and I couldn't find anyone else. And the very last day of the auditions when I was meeting them, these two girls walked in with their mum. And the first thing I thought was Diane Arbus, because they looked so weird. And they dressed absolutely alike, and it was just like, my God. So I did a video of them, and I ran onto the set next door where Stanley was shooting, and I said, Stanley, I found them. And we looked at it, and he just said, yeah, we found them. And that was it. I mean, it was just one of those beautiful serendipitous things that happened. You know?
So this film came out 39 years to the week this came out. with age. But it wasn't received really well when it came out. I mean, the film is a masterpiece. It's a hard masterpiece, but it's a masterpiece of filmmaking in its own right. But yet critics weren't really warm to it. Did that upset Stanley, or did he know, like, he just knew that this thing was going to live on its own and the test of time would serve it out?
Yeah, there was, after Barry Lyndon, I mean, when it was flayed alive by the press here and in the UK, I mean, it was very depressing for him, and it really, really was. And so The Shining, it didn't hit him as hard, but of course it's a bit jolting, because what you realise is he made a horror film in a way that people had never seen a horror film before. It was much more cerebral, it was much more about instinct and feeling and survival, and it was genuine. It wasn't that camp kind of Frankenstein horror film, which is what most English audiences thought of as a horror film. So, it wasn't breaking new ground. And then, the same thing happened with Eyes Wide Shut. I've got to say, we were slayed in the press, both here and in the UK. But now I'm getting people coming up to me and saying they loved it, they've seen it again, they love it, they love it, they love it. And Barry Lyndon was the same. Now some people say his favorite movie.
So, there's so much planning in Stanley's films. How long was the planning, and how did that work, you two working together, before they even shot a frame?
Well, we could always kind of work it out when you look back, what in anger. A year for pre-production, and it always took a year or plus, for shooting, and generally it would take probably close to a year for editing, post-production, all that. So you could say, at least every project lasted at least 3 years, 3.5 years, something like that. 2001 probably lasted 5 years, I think, when you actually went through every. In the ape scene, he shot last for 2001, because they didn't really understand how they were going to start the whole thing off. So it took a little while to get around to it, but everything was very organic. Nothing was done in speculation. I mean, if something happened, it was going to cause something to change something further down the line. So he was open to, the script sometimes didn't bear any relationship to what you had in the hand when you started and what you ended up with. And that for me is a beautiful, beautiful way to work, because it means spontaneity is really, what you need to have and what you need to keep, looking for and being open to. And Stanley was never afraid to say, this isn't going to work, forget it. He was never afraid to do that. He was always open, and he was always open to people's ideas. That iconic shot in when Dan is cycling around the hotel, I can't tell you, that was 2 hours of, oh my God, this isn't working. And then he suddenly said to Garrett Brown, the Steadicam guy who designed it, he said, we couldn't get low enough, which meant we couldn't get close enough. So he said to Garrett Brown, well, wait a minute, why don't we just turn the Steadicam pole upside down so the camera can be at the bottom, and we got it to with that much of the floor. And then, of course, he was in a wheelchair, and me and one other guy, Grip, was pushing Garrett in his wheelchair as we were behind Danny Lloyd, over and over again. But the problem was, every time he hit one of those rugs, he sort of went, and we said, well, we're having a bit of problem with this. And he said, well, okay, let's take the rugs up. And this voice said, oh, I like that sound. And he said, what do you mean? He said, I like the sort of rug, wood. And he listened to the playback of the rehearsal and said, you're fine. So we had to make it work. And we did it by blowing up the tires of the wheelchair so big it was like a cartoon. And he was watching with me, but he was standing behind me saying, okay, how far is it? Oh, they're getting big. Yeah. So, and that's really the whole gestation of how that scene worked, and it did become a kind of iconic scene, you know, with that sound, nothing else going on, sound, wood, rug, wood. So that's how open he was when we were working in that way.
I got a question. I don't want to give away anything here, so I'm going to walk lightly. But there was a different ending. We can talk about without giving away what the ending is. But that was cut out.
Yeah.
Now, when did he decide, and how was the process for him deciding, like, that's not the ending, that's got to go? Because they were already sent out to some theaters, right?
Yeah. He realized, I mean, the film played in Cannes with that ending. We were in Cannes or San Sebastian, I can't remember. And he'd already sort of was thinking about it because he felt it was too on the nose. You know, it took a little bit of the sort of aura, mystery away from out of it. And so when he realized that and he made the decision, he sent an army of editors out to all the theaters and just cut the end and tacked on the end credits. And that's basically, you know, when he decided something like that, it was just go for it. And so he did. And I think it's very enigmatic as it ends now.
Yeah, it's perfect.
Yeah.
Did Warner Brothers have anything to say about that?
Not much.
Yeah, you're talking about the relationship between the script and then what actually ended up in the film. The famous "Here's Johnny" through the door, was that ad-libbed by Jack?
Jack and Stanley worked that out when we were on the floor, the shooting. Yeah. Well, a lot of stuff came like that. It was, you know, like I say, he's really, really open to ideas. And
it's got to be a relationship as well between Stanley and his talent and his team around him of absolute trust in each other. Not just that they can find something great, but that they can work through it together under what's incredible duress of trying to find perfection. Because that's the thing that this film has got. I mean, all of his films.
right.
But it's that pursuit of perfection at any cost that makes his work just stand head and shoulders above anyone else's.
Well, yeah, it is. Although when you're trying to get it, you're conscious that you never will get perfection. And sometimes, you know, it's great when something doesn't quite pan out the way you thought about it, because then you kind of get jolted into another way of thinking, you know?
Was there a big difference then when it actually got into the edit? How involved was he in the editing process?
Oh, there wasn't any editing if he wasn't doing it.
Right. But he knew exactly, coming out of shooting the film, did he know exactly how it was going to flow, so the editing was pretty simple, or did the film find itself in the bag?
Yeah, I mean, he approached editing the same way as we approach shooting. You know, you didn't know, you never knew.
Yeah.
You know, it was fantastic. It was, you know, I always say, well, as an actor, when I was working as an actor, it's wonderful to work for someone like Stanley, you know, of course it is. But the thing is, you come, you do your part, and then you leave. And my experience working for Stanley was, you come and you stay, and you're part of the creativity. And that's the most rewarding experience. It really, really is. So when I do all these transfers and what have you, for me it's just a beautiful thing, even though I've seen that film more than 200, 300, 400 times, just with the work I've had to do with it over the years. And it's sort of, if I see it on television, because they show it a lot on TV, you know, if I'm channel surfing and I come across it, I still can't turn away. I've still got to watch it, whether it's in the middle or the end or near the end or the beginning. I'm just watching it.
Do you get absorbed with the plot and the story, or are you
Sure.
back, you fall back into it like all of us?
Yeah, I guess it depends a little bit. Sometimes it kind of brings up a thought or a memory or something, but for the most part, you know, I'm going with it. You know, and that's why I can't. It's very compelling.
All right, well, we should probably start the film now, right?
Yeah. Amazing to have
The great Leon Vitale, thank you once again for coming out.
You will all survive, so don't worry.
Thanks for coming out, everyone. Enjoy the rest cinematic version of The Shining.